I'll begin this afternoon's session with a brief introduction. Welcome to the Canadian Institute of Forestry's National Electronic Lecture Program. My name is Sharon Yan, and I will be hosting today's session. Today is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, and this is the last session in the e-lecture series entitled Applied Research Perspectives Across the Canadian Forest Service. The series is a collaborative effort coordinated between the Canadian Forest Service and the Canadian Council of Forest Ministers. The CIF-IFC is very pleased to collaborate and host these webinars. For today's session, we are pleased to welcome Keara Lightning of Samson Cree Nation, who will present overview of the Canadian Forest Service Northern Forest Fields Mapping Program. To begin, Keara Lightning is the Indigenous Liaison Officer for the Canadian Forest Service Northern Forest Mapping Program, working with Indigenous nations to develop field and wildfire mapping projects, support participation in NorthForM field activities, and build capacity for using next generation of the Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating System data and tools. Alongside this work, she is completing a PhD on Indigenous fire governance and mapping and supports community-driven fire stewardship and training initiatives across Treaty 6 and beyond. Although she's not presenting today, I would also like to note that Jessica Zerb is also a member of the project team. Jessica is a wildfire research officer at the Canadian Forest Service. She manages the Northern Forest Fields Mapping Field Program at the Northern Forestry Center. Since 2022, she has coordinated annual field operations across the Northwest Territories, Yukon, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, overseeing data collection and QA/QC processes, and supported the integration of ground plot fields data with LiDAR. Jessica works closely with regional partners and contractors, leads multidisciplinary teams, and provides technical guidance on data workflows to support wildfire fields research. With that, I will now pass it over to Keara to begin today's presentation.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for having me here. I will be presenting on NorthForM. As Sharon said, I'm Keara Lightning, and I'm the Indigenous Engagement Coordinator for NorthForM. My colleagues, Jess and others, could not be here today, so I'll be presenting this. I will say off the bat that I will be better suited to answer questions about the Indigenous engagement partnerships that I'll go into. I'll try my best to answer other questions, but may have to direct you to my colleagues' emails. So here's a little overview of what we will get into today. I'll talk about just a general overview of NorthForM, past fire seasons and the reasons why we need this program, details on how it works, and then about the collaborators of the program, the LiDAR acquisition and planning, and the future of NorthForM and where we're going next. First, background on NorthForM. 2023 was Canada's most extensive wildfire season on record. Over 17 million hectares burned from... Oh, sorry. I lost my page. 1 second. Sorry. One second, I'm just going to start this over. I lost the page and I can't bring it back up.
Well, I can still see the first page slide.
There we go. Okay, sorry. Over 17 million hectares burned from over 7,100 fires. Northwest Territories, BC, Alberta, and Quebec were especially affected, and this led to widespread evacuations and long-term impacts on communities. Then in 2024, roughly 5.4 million hectares burned, and as many of you know, the Jasper Fire in Alberta was among one of the most damaging. It led to major evacuations and lost infrastructure. As well, British Columbia and other regions faced significant fires, including persistent zombie burns from 2023 as well. Then in 2025, more than 8.8 million hectares burned, with Saskatchewan and Manitoba seeing some of the highest impacts. Tens of thousands were evacuated as large fires challenged many regions across the country. One more interesting graph to note here is the number of fires in area burned over the last few decades. The 2023 fire season caused the 10-year average area burn to increase by almost double. So this is where the Northern Forest Mapping Program becomes critical to help address this increasing wildfire activity. The Northern Forest Mapping Program's objective is to enhance mapping of poorly understood northern forests to identify wildfire hazard and to support community wildfire resilience and mitigation measures. One of the key challenges we face in northern Canada is that we simply don't have enough data. Limited data collection in northern forests means that our ability to predict fire behavior is more uncertain for these landscapes and the communities located within these landscapes. And we know that fuel is a critical driver of fire behavior. Across most of Canada, fuel is mapped using the Forest Fire Behavior Prediction Fuel Type Classification System. In this system, forest stands are classified into one of 16 fuel types. You can see some of those listed on the slide here. Typically, these classifications are derived from forest resource inventory data sets, which provide detailed information on forest structure and composition. However, in northern Canada, outside of areas covered by government or industry resource inventory programs, fuel type classification has relied on relatively coarse resolution remote sensing data combined with national forest inventory plots, and this results in limited sampling coverage across the north. On top of that, even though forest resource inventory data sets aim to be as accurate as possible, they're not consistently produced across large regions of Canada, particularly outside of commercially managed forests. When they do exist, they're not always updated frequently enough to capture vegetation changes between forest management planning cycles, and this is where NorthForM comes in. NorthForM focuses on mapping beyond the areas currently covered by forest resource inventory programs, with the goal of providing fuel information across all forest ecosystems in Canada. The program builds on new research along with National Forest Inventory data and the National Forest Information System to develop fuel classification maps supporting the next generation of fire behavior prediction. Using ground plot data collected through NorthForM, the next generation Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating System will move beyond the traditional 16 fuel types and instead provide more flexible attribute-based fuel information for fire behavior modeling. And importantly, these data sets will be made available to users online as interoperable open data. The next key component of the NorthForM program is the next generation Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating System protocol, CIF-IFC protocol. This protocol has been adapted into a field guide format to support consistent training and easier use in the field. We've also added more diagrams, which is especially important since many of our plots are established by contractors working to our specifications. The protocol focuses on fuel attributes that are difficult to capture through remote sensing alone, with particular emphasis on ladder and litter fuels. For NorthForM, the goal is to fill key data gaps and support validation efforts. This includes aligning with aerial LiDAR collected through our program, as well as products like SCAMFI that's developed by Luke Guindon and colleagues. I'm sorry, I hope I said his name right. As mentioned earlier, the goal is to move beyond the traditional 16 FBP fuel types and toward more flexible attribute level fuel datasets for fire behavior modeling. On these slides, I'll quickly walk through the protocol and highlight the key information collected from each field form and how that data feeds into the next generation models that are currently in development. Number one here, at Plot Center, we collect high precision GNSS coordinates along with general stand attributes like species composition and percent cover. This anchors our data and supports alignment with coincident datasets and aerial LiDAR. In the canopy fuel plot, we measure canopy fuel load, including live and dead crown base height by species, condition, and basal area. These inputs are critical for modeling crown fire intensity, spread, and consumption. Then third here, the subcanopy fuel plot focuses on ladder fuels, capturing metrics like effective crown base height and basal area of subcanopy trees. These are important for crown fire initiation and in-stand wind modeling. In the regeneration plot, we then collect seedling density, which feeds into models related to litter moisture, sustained flaming front, and surface fire spread. Continuing on, the litter plot captures litter load and depth across cones, barks, leaves, and needles. This supports fuel consumption and forest floor modeling. In the surface fuel plot, number 6, we measure percent cover of surface vegetation by class, which is used in litter moisture and surface fire spread models. Along the down dead wood transects, number 7, we quantify ground fuel loads to support forest floor consumption modeling. And we also collect hemispherical photos at 8 locations per plot to estimate plant area index and crown closure, which inform in-stand wind and solar radiation models. And finally, we capture 360-degree photos. Sorry, my dog. Finally, we capture 360-degree photos to support SCAMFI layer development and assist with general FBP fuel classification. And this is all laid out in the diagram here on the slide. Sorry, stay here. Laid out on the slide here, showing the points within the plot where we collect this data. So you can see the plot center there in the middle, and then the rings moving outwards where each of the other points of data are collected. And this is repeated at every plot that's measured in the program. Next, plot selection. Our plot selection procedure is based on the SCAMFI 30-meter resolution attribute layers. These are wall-to-wall maps that include land cover type, canopy height, crown closure, above ground biomass, and dominant species composition. We then stratify these layers by ecozone, conifer percentage, and crown closure classes. From there, sorry, he knows when I'm not paying attention, acts out. Sorry. We then stratify these layers by ecozone, conifer percentage, and crown closure classes. From there, we focus on the non-managed forest land base and apply a 1-kilometer buffer around roads and communities. This helps us target higher risk areas while also ensuring practical access for field sampling. We also anchor our plots to the NFI 4-kilometer grid, both for location and naming consistency, and identify the strata each point falls within. Finally, we use a balanced sampling approach. Plots are selected proportionally across strata within each ecozone, with additional weighting towards smaller strata classes to ensure adequate representation and an appropriate overall sample size. Okay. Uh, sorry, one second. I feel like I skipped a slide, but we'll just keep going. Okay. We have to collaborate with many jurisdictions and partners. So in the first field season of NorthForM, two primary teams were deployed, one operating out of Edmonton and one out of Quebec City. Fieldwork in the Northwest Territories was coordinated closely with territorial partners, including the integration of a local student crew, while additional plots were measured in laboratory. In total, over 200 plots were collected in that first year. Building on that momentum, the second season expanded significantly. In addition to continued collaboration with the Northwest Territories, where local crews operated independently, sampling extended into northern Quebec, Saskatchewan, and Yukon. That season resulted in an additional 414 plots, marking a major increase in both scale and geographic coverage. The third field season continued this trajectory with strong support from collaborators. Work in the Northwest Territories and Yukon remains central, with Yukon engaging contractors to complete sampling. The program also partnered with Vuntut First Nation, which I'll talk more about in a second, where a local student participated in fieldwork near Dawson City, contributing valuable traditional knowledge to our field crew while also gaining experience with the sampling protocol learned from us. In Manitoba, a challenging fire season delayed our field work this year, with plots ultimately collected in the latter half of the summer. Despite these constraints, we were able to build strong relationships that will support future collaboration. Across all 3 seasons of fieldwork, the program has successfully expanded its footprint, strengthened partnerships, and collected a substantial and growing dataset. In the 2025 field season, we operated with 3 CFS field crews in total, with 2 based out of the Northern Forestry Center and 1 out of the Laurentian Forestry Center. We conducted interviews in February and March to onboard both new and returning students to the program, with crews starting in mid-May, and the field season then ran from late May through to mid-September. From the Northern Forestry Center, crews were deployed across a wide range of locations, including Flin Flon, Snow Lake, Vanderhoof, Fort St. James, Whitehorse, Dawson City, and Thompson. The Laurentian Forestry Center focused their efforts in northern Quebec, with crews working in the Radisson, Brisset, and Kaniapis regions. Again, I hope I said that right. And taking a step back across all 3 field seasons from 2023 to 2025, we have now collected approximately 900 plots in total. Indigenous engagement and partnerships. I came into this role as Indigenous engagement liaison this year, and early on learned that the Vuntut First Nation had expressed interest in further collaboration through our research permissions process. They were interested in having summer students participate with us and learn the NorthForM sampling protocol, particularly to inform development of their own environmental monitoring program. So they had their own program that they wanted to learn new methods from us to possibly incorporate. So we coordinated to have a local student join our crews near Dawson City for plot measurements. This was a meaningful collaboration for our field crew, and it also highlighted for my role that field season engagement is capacity limited on both sides for us and First Nations, and depends a lot on the timing and logistics, doing field work during fire season, and First Nations priorities as well, shown in what their interest was. So it is difficult for that to be the only pathway to community engagement. So we've been developing an additional engagement pathway outside of being dependent on field season, and uh, incorporating more training and more dialogues about fire danger rating and fuels data. Leading into and sorry, leading into a partnership with the National Indigenous Fire Safety Council. They play a major role in supporting community wildfire capacity for Indigenous communities nationally, including operational training like ICS and fire crew training. So we collaborated to add to that work and build on what they do, adding in training focused on understanding and using the fire danger rating system, fire behavior concepts, and the role of fuels data and forest measurements in those systems so that communities can connect the operational readiness that NIFC provides with planning and decision support. This partnership was designed to, rather than us just approaching communities and asking them for input on the program, designing it to first look at how we can benefit both NIFC as the partner by adding to their workshop, repertoire, their workshops that they have to deliver, as well as like be useful training on its own, and while adding in a component of creating structured conversations about the relevance of the systems they're learning about to their communities, the usability, barriers and constraints, and those outcomes from those discussions will be documented and fed back into the NorthForM engagement planning and to the next gen CIF-IFC team so that the products and how we share them can more so reflect real community decision context. And I will build on that a little bit in the next step section as well. LiDAR acquisitions and metrics. Now these I don't know much about. I'm going off of their notes, so I'm sorry. The satellite data provides information on land cover and change. However, forest structure attributes are difficult to model without additional measurements from ground plots or airborne laser scanning. Over large and inaccessible areas such as Canada's northern and predominantly unmanaged forest, ground plots are expensive, difficult to install, and unlikely to form a statistically valid probability sample. An alternative means to obtain information regarding forest structure in these situations is to collect samples of ALS, which we refer to as LiDAR plots. Transect-based samples of ALS data can be used to provide structural information for the calibration and validation of spatially explicit predictive modeling for wide area mapping of forest attributes. By linking statistically data from ground plots, ALS transects, and wall-to-wall satellite imagery, we can generate predictive surfaces of forest fuel attributes. Approximately 55,000 kilometers of ALS transects have been acquired in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Acquisition specifications included minimum swath widths of 500 meters in 2023 or 800 meters in 2024 and 2025, and a minimum pulse density of 12 pulses per meter squared, I think. Acquisition flight lines were designed to sample a range of northern forest conditions and to correspond with the ground plot sampling campaign. More than 15 million LiDAR plots were generated from the 2023 Transect dataset, with area-based point cloud metrics calculated for each 30 meters by 30 meter cell. The area-based metrics capture a suite of summary statistics calculated from the return heights of the point clouds that were clipped to each 30 by 30 meter LiDAR plot. Presently, the 2023 LiDAR plots and their associated point cloud metrics are stored in openly available SQLite geopackages with additional annual Transect collections to be added as available. To accommodate a wide range of users and applications, both comprehensive and abridged versions of the metrics databases with 369 metrics and 40 metrics respectively are shared. LiDAR simultaneously characterizes both terrain morphology and vegetation height, structure, and complexity. Here we have examples of LiDAR plot metrics. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, there we go. On the left, we have 3 different point cloud metrics. Canopy height based on the 95th height percentile of first returns greater than 2 meters. Canopy cover based on the proportion of first returns greater than 2 meters. And canopy complexity based on the coefficient of variation of first returns heights greater than 2 meters. In total, we generated 369 point cloud metrics. On the right here, we show some basic topographic metrics calculated from the LiDAR-derived digital terrain model, including height above sea level, curvature, and a solar radiation index. Now, next steps for NorthForM. On my piece, Indigenous Engagement, the partnership we had with NIFC, the National Indigenous Fire Safety Council, we are using the results of that to inform the next steps within engagement for the next field season. Communities engaged by NIFC received CIF-IFC training, Red Books, and also CIFC online course access. We're still awaiting the final report and outcomes being delivered by NIFC, and these will synthesize what was heard, the interests, relevance, usability, their data needs and priorities, and barriers. And that will be translated into our 2026 engagement plan, how we can sort of tailor what we offer to what communities are interested in and work with what barriers they may be facing and make the work we do relevant to them. Hopefully then we also want this relationship to develop and continue to inform our programming and other programming around the CIF-IFC. For our quality assurance, we focus on verifying the accuracy of data as it comes in from field crews using Survey 123 by cross-checking through ARC Enterprise portals. For quality control, we work with the National Forest Information Team to identify and resolve errors or missing values in the data. As we move through QA, QC process, we are continually updating the data dictionary to make sure everything is consistent across the program. This becomes especially important as we share the protocol more widely. Next in the workflow is to transform the raw field data into meaningful wildfire fuels attributes. An R package that is currently in development by Jean Marchal at the Laurentian Forestry Center is called Next Fuel R. This package ingests NorthForM field measured values and compiles them using known allometric equations into the specific fuels attributes required by current and future fire behavior models like Prometheus and Burn P3+. I'll wrap up with a quick update on data availability and supporting materials and development. Version 1.1 of the NorthForM dataset has been released to beta testers across the Canadian Forest Service and partner jurisdictions, with a broader public release coming soon. On the publication side, Chris Bader and colleagues have published their paper on airborne laser scanning transects across Canada's northern forests, which is now publicly available and supports the LiDAR component of this work. Our ground plot data paper is currently in preparation, and an accompanying information report is also underway to provide workflows and guidance for users. Overall, the goal is to deliver accessible, well-documented datasets that directly support improved fuel characterization and more accurate fire behavior modeling across Canada's northern forests. And that is all from me today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Keara. That was a great presentation. Keara, I have a question for you. What approaches are used to engage Indigenous communities throughout this project?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As I kind of talked about, there's I had just started this year, so I had to kind of jump on really quickly with making a plan for engagement. And so first we started with trying to get more participation in the fieldwork season, on the ground with the fuel sampling. And we were able to get that one partnership, but it was pretty hard to coordinate more of that. Like, it was a lot of work just to coordinate one, with like the fire season kind of making us change our fieldwork plans pretty constantly. Like, they would send a crew out to somewhere and then it would be on fire and they'd have to come back, or we'd have to change at last minute. So that makes it pretty hard to try to coordinate with local communities when we don't really know where we're going to be next week. So then I started trying to develop partnerships with organizations that we can sort of expand and do more partnerships outside of the field season, working more with the data products of the program. So I'm hoping to kind of build on that work in the future as well.
Thank you, Keara. We have one question at this moment in the Q&A pod. On the slide with plot selection, what did the two distinct green and white colors over represent?
I'll go back to that slide. The green is just the area from which the sampling is done, like our yeah, our area that NorthForM is covering, with the white just being the southern area of the country where we're not gathering data.
For our participants, if you have any questions after this webinar, please feel free to email us, and we'd be happy to connect you with Jess and Keara. Oh, one more question. With one of the shortfalls of FBP being fewer updates over time, is NorthForM expected to have more timely updates to represent changing conditions?
That's also a great question. I think as long as NorthForm as a program continues, we will be actively working on taking and releasing data. I just jumped back to the publications and data release here, and I see my colleagues in NorthForm like working actively on this and getting it released every day. But like you said, I think what you're identifying is less updates over time. So I'm not sure how that will work over time, if that makes sense. As long as NorthForm, continues to be funded and yeah, in active development, but I can't promise that over time.
If there are no further questions, I would like to bring this session to a close. Thank you all for participating in our CIF electronic lectures. And once again, thank you very much to Keara for the great presentation. Bye, everyone.
Hi, thank you.